How you doing? I'm Crickett with Drift HQ. I'm the head fabricator here and also work for pit crew for Duarte and any of the sponsored Drift HQ drivers. This is my track loadout. So what I like to bring to the track is a welder for obvious reasons. People like to run into other people. They break a lot of things, so I'll bring my welder with me as my #1 thing. My plasma cutter is my #2 favorite thing to have, because if you need to make something new, the plasma cutter is the easiest way to cut your metal up and make it into the design that you need to, or you can cut off old body parts that you no longer need or that are in the way. Third would be my grinder to make everything able to weld, because with a TIG welder you have to have everything nice, clean surface, no paint, rust, or anything like that on it. And then my other big one is a generator, because you need a generator to run all these things because they're not available at the track. Now my plasma cutter, one thing I love about this one is you don't need a compressor to go with it. So we got this one to be able to do trackside fixes. It is a, what is it, Hypertherm PowerMax 30, and it works just off of 110. So both welders and plasma cutter are 110 and 220. So you can run it off just one generator as long as you have a homie. So my #6 would be having a homie to rev the generator up so I can run these bad boys. All right, so one of my favorite reasons for bringing this welder and plasma cutter to the track is you could break something and you don't necessarily have the part readily available to replace. Say for instance, you break one of your control arms. Well, if it's an aftermarket part, you're not likely gonna have 2 of them lying around as a spare because they're expensive. So the cheaper alternative is to have a welder with you on site, and then if say you break it or crack it, you can re-weld it and make it able to keep on driving. So I can't tell you how many times we've had the welder save us and keep us in a competition or keep us drifting, because without it we would have been broken and had to push the car up into the trailer. Hell, one of our races at Clutch Kickers, when Chelsea was driving this car, he won and he broke the tie rod on it at the last outer zone, but it was deemed someone else's fault. But we couldn't drive it off the track because the tie rod broke. So me and Chris loaded up the welder, the generator, and drove over onto the track. After everything was done, the trophy was given out, we drove over there, I tacked it twice, and then we drove the car back up onto the trailer. Obviously changed the tie rod out, but we were able to not get it towed off the track for one. We were able to fix it right there, track side or on track, and then drive it off. So having a welder or a plasma cutter is really helpful for you in case you end up running into something or just breaking stuff from stress. So when I first started going to the track and bringing a welder, I would usually bring my MIG welder. My MIG was a multi-purpose MIG, so you could do MIG and TIG, but it didn't allow for AC. So you could do your stainless steel and your steel, but you couldn't do any aluminum welding. And anyone that's been on the track and run into someone knows that your aluminum piping for your intercooler, you can crack it, you can bend it, you can break it. So that sometimes needs to get fixed. That or your intake manifolds, depending on how much boost you have, that can end up, the stress of it will end up cracking. We call it the Chinesium, so your cheaper intake manifolds and stuff, the welds can crack on it. So having a AC/DC TIG welder is really nice for that, being at the track. The only downfall of a TIG welding is the wind. At the track there's a lot of wind usually, so if there's wind blowing on your weld, it's gonna mess it up and flare it up. So I also bring a MIG welder for that. If you have to be under the car and working on something or in an open environment, when I do most of my TIG stuff, it's usually parts you can take off the car. Most people will come to me and say, hey, I broke this, can you fix it? And it's already in their hands, it's already off the car. So I just go in the parts trailer. It's a nice enclosed environment, no wind blowing, and can fix it really fast. So without that, if you don't have some place to take the part off and do it without the wind blowing, a MIG is a really good option and also very inexpensive. You get them for like $250 at Harbor Freight. All right, so at minimum, if you can't bring like a whole TIG setup or MIG setup, you can do a flux core. You can get them for like $110 at Harbor Freight, Northern Tool. Hell, I think even Walmart sells them now. I know Home Depot does too. So just something that can get you, if you break apart, to get you welded back up to be able to load it on the trailer, or if you don't have a trailer and you have to drive home, this is a really good option. A flux core welder doesn't need any gas. It just needs a generator that runs 110. And that's it. It doesn't need anything. It has the flux already in the line. Yes, you will get burned by it, so wear some long sleeves and make sure you have somebody watching for fires because it shoots sparks everywhere. But cheap option is a flux core welder. You can always get fixed, get back home, and then take out your nice welder and take care of all that bad flux core welding that you did. I'm Crickett from Drift HQ, and that's my track loadout.